Hi, I'm Marian McPartland. My guest today on Piano Jazz is Grover Washington Jr. He's a master musician, saxophone player par excellence, and undeniably one of the hottest names in jazz today. And more and more and more, Grover.
Oh, thank you very much.
How are you?
Kind. Thank you. I'm doing fine now here with you. I'm fine.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. I've just been looking forward to this date for a long time.
Well, I've been looking forward to it, too, because I've been a fan of the show, like, for years, and you just continue to amaze me with all the different harmonies and things that you play on the so-called standard changes, and then you reharmonize almost, and it brings like a fresh air to the tune.
Gee, thank you. My head's getting big. I'm just going to hold on to my...
Well, it should be big.
Thank you very much, but I just would like to just talk to you a little bit about how you got started playing such wonderful horns, plural.
Yeah,
everything, tenor, alto, and today soprano.
Tenor, alto, and soprano, and I play baritone also. I guess it all really started when I was home in Buffalo, New York. That's where I was born and raised. And my father played C-melody saxophone, which you really don't see too much of anymore. That was basically used as a blending instrument, like in the horn sections of the big bands in like the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Oh, God, I haven't seen one of those or heard about it. A guy named Boyce Brown used to play one years and years ago. Your father probably knew of him. That's amazing. Well, so you got to hear music right off the bat.
Yeah, he'd be walking through the house and playing all kinds of tunes. And I guess it would have to be like the best thing that our parents did for us. They would play, like some Stravinsky, and they would follow that with a little Fletcher Henderson. And they'd follow that with a little B.B. King, and follow that with Sonny Rollins, Jerry Mulligan.
Oh my God, you had the best of all worlds.
Yeah, they exposed us like to all kinds of music, and I still have that love and that respect like for all kinds of music today. Because music is just, I guess, like to me, it's a point of view. That you have about certain situations, certain moods that you create. And with the more tools at your disposal, I guess, the more that you're able to express yourself.
Well, how old were you when you got your first horn? What did you get, by the way?
I was 8, and I got a tenor saxophone, and I just looked at it. I said, okay, that's cool, but now where are the toys? And I wasn't too big on practicing. For about maybe the first couple of months of my lessons. In fact, I even skipped a couple of lessons. And then my mom called me. She said, look, you said you wanted to do this, so if you want to express yourself in a musical sense, you have to practice. So I started practicing, and I practiced to this day, because I had thought it was just, well, I'll just jump up on the stage with some nice clothes and just wave my horn around, and I'll be famous, But it isn't like that. And
I bet a lot of kids do think that.
Yeah, and this was like an 8 or a 9-year-old young person, thinking this kind of thing. But once I got into the practice, and after I got hooked on the melodies of the songs, then they would have to tell me to stop practicing,
Listen, we got to play something. I can't wait to hear a nice tune. What are we going to do?
Okay, how about I Got It Bad, and That Ain't Good.
All right, and we're going to include our very fine bassist, Mr. Gary Mazzarapi.
Okay, let's have some fun.
Oh, that's terrific. That was nice.
It's an honor to play with you. Really, it is.
Oh, stop.
I'm serious.
Stop. You know, you were talking about Buffalo, and I was... when did you start, like, with your own group, or your first gigs? When were those?
Well, with my own group, that wasn't until a while later. I have played just about every kind of music. You know, I played in a Ukrainian dance band, and we played, you know...
oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. We played all kinds of different music. You know, we played shows
you mean when you
and stuff like
started out?
that. Yeah.
Did you play club dates even?
Club dates and stuff, and then I was still in high school at the time, and I was playing concert music. You know, with the concert band. I was playing Barry in that band, and I would play blues at night. Sometimes I'd be playing tenor. Sometimes I'd be playing bass. You know, if the piano player was late, I'd be playing blues until he got there. You know, and.
See, I'm going to get you to play piano yet.
I don't think so. It was just like a great education, you know, because back in the 60s, you know, they had all kinds of jam sessions, you know, where you could go and see the people play these tunes and get real close to them and ask them questions. You know, that was the most important thing. And I'm just lucky
so
that
much now, does it? I mean,
no.
You were lucky because it's people don't seem. They were less standoffish in those days. Or they welcomed having musicians come and sit in.
They would say, come and sit on the bandstand, or either come over to the rehearsal, and I'll show you how we play that tune. You know, and I've just been very lucky, like, to find people that would, you know, show me things like that. You know, whether it was Cannonball Adderley or whether it was King Curtis or Rusty Bryant. Or,
well, when did you meet Cannonball?
You know, oh boy, I met him, I guess, like in the early '70s. But that's when I started playing with my own group, and that's when I found out how hard it was to be a band leader, and it's still hard.
It is, boy. I tell you, it's never easy.
Right.
Well, where were you when you started with your own band? Were you in Philadelphia by that
Well, that was when my first album came out, which was Inner City Blues, and the first album hit basically on the West Coast and spread east. So our first gig, as soon as I got my driver's license, I went out and I bought a van, and we threw everything in the van, and our first stop was Los Angeles. You know?
Oh, that's funny. You already had a band, but you didn't have your driver's license.
Right.
You must have been just a
kid.
My
wife was driving me everywhere, you know.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, which really turned out pretty good, you know, because we have been together now for almost 27 years, and my wife is like my business partner. You know, she's my friend. Great. She's my sounding board.
That's great.
And you know, you've probably been in those situations where you've been in the studio working on an album and you've heard each tune like maybe 50 times, and you need like an objective viewpoint. You know, because
definitely.
you are totally fried, and you're biased on your music, of course. You know, and I like to bounce my music off of people. You know, that aren't musicians, but just, you know, have good ears and good judgment.
Well, you've got so many records out, and you've got Grammys, and I mean, I can't even begin to list all the awards, and Grammys and gold records, and
yeah, but there's so much more music to play.
Well, that's true. I'm sure you're never satisfied, even though you must be very gratified with all this.
Yeah, I've been able to play like a lot of different kinds of music, whether it was Jazzy Jeff or whether it was with Tommy Flanagan.
Well, as much as I want to keep talking, I also want to hear more music. Let's do another tune.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. Yeah, that sounds pretty much like this tune, doesn't it?
That's right.
What am I here for? What are we here for? To play.
1, 2.
You know, that was so much fun playing that tune. It's one of those Ellington tunes that I don't do that often. And playing with you is so easy. And it's funny because we don't even talk about how the tune's going to end or anything. You know,
just let it flow. Just let it out there.
Who's in your band now? You know, I've been listening to your records, and seem to have so many people that are a part of your records. You must have a great gang of helpers there, plus the members of your band.
Yes. We can start off with our musical director, Mr. Bill Jolly. He's from Philadelphia, as is our other keyboardist, Mr. Kurt Dowd, Mr. Richard Lee on guitar from Philadelphia, Mr. Pablo Batista on drums and percussion. He's also from Philadelphia, and Mr. Stephen Wolf on drums. He's from Philly, but he's living in New York. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Ruben Rodriguez on bass, and he's from New York City.
It's a wonderful group, and you know, I was listening to one of your earlier records, and I think it's called Wine Light. Is that the right title?
It's around 80, 81, yeah.
And, well, it sounds like today, but there was one really nice, the first cut, I think, was like a C minor blues, and it was so pretty. I don't know who wrote that, but it was like a long meter C minor blues.
That was the title track, I think.
Yeah, I think it was, but I was really taken with that. Maybe when you're picking a record or the tunes, do you allocate some ideas to some other composer, or does somebody come to you with tunes, or do you do your own tunes or something?
A little of both. You know, I could really probably say all of the above. You know, when I was working on the Wine Light album, I was also going to Temple University. I was taking composition classes because I felt that I had musical blinders on. You know, because sometimes, like when you play jazz and blues all the time, you get hung up like in the 2-5-1 kind of thing, and it got increasingly harder and harder for me to write my own music. So I took some composition courses, and it served the purpose of taking the blinders off, so that I used like the whole keyboard instead of just like more than an octave and a half.
Well, I was wondering what they tell you in a composition class. It's so many years since I took composition, I can't even remember what they told me to do, but you've got to get some kind of a theme going, at least, haven't you?
Yes. You have to start off with a theme, and don't be afraid to go to different cadences, different meters. You know, just do it.
You know, I find I've written a few things myself, and I find that something that comes very quickly and easily seems to turn out to be the best tune, rather than something I'm hassling over for days and keep reworking it and say, no, this isn't right, this isn't right. Some tunes just fall together.
It's your first feeling. You know, and if you're lucky enough, like, to be close to a piano, and you can get it under your fingers and then write it down, like, you're in great shape. You know, but sometimes, like, if you're not close, I find myself humming a lot until I get to a piano. You know, to do that. And when you listen to other people's compositions, like I like the great Duke Ellington. You know, all of his compositions are different. They have a different story. You know, they have a different mood. They have a different texture. You know.
Why don't we try one?
Okay.
Or another one, since we've already done a couple.
All right, good.
Just you and I. Let's just you and I, our two selves, do this.
One of my favorite tunes.
What's it going to be?
Come Sunday.
Oh, I love that tune. Love that. You know, that's such a gorgeous number. The time I always remember hearing that thing was at the service for Duke, or one of them, at St. John the Divine, and how gorgeous that was. And you put so much feeling into it, and my goodness, what control you have! You must do isometric exercises and all kinds of stuff.
Well, the only exercise I do is pulling myself up to the table.
Oh,
You know, but getting back to those tunes, you know, the last time that I played, come Sunday, I was honored to be on the same stage with Kenny Barron, Grady Tate, David Williams, and Miss Kathleen Battle.
that woman she is a genius.
And we played at Carnegie Hall. It was like, it was around the 10th or 11th of December, because right before my birthday.
What, just this past year, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. And the first half of the show, she was doing all the things that she's known for, you know, all the Haydn and stuff with her accompanist, Mr.
Yeah.
Katz. And the second half of the show, we did all Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn music
Fantastic.
with Kenny Barron and David Williams and Grady. And boy, was that a pleasure.
Oh, what a group.
Yeah.
And Grady he probably didn't sing that day, or did he?
He sang like on one of the encore numbers, yeah.
Oh,
Grady's one of my favorite singers and definitely one of my favorite percussionists.
Oh, mine too. But altogether, it's a nice group. I was just recently in Japan with Kenny Barron. 10 piano players. I can't remember. Kenny Barron, Duke Jordan, John Lewis, Dave McKenna, Roger Calloway, Ray Bryant,
Man.
and on and on. And
Yeah.
Kenny Barron's one of my real favorites.
I love his playing in his space. You know, he uses silence in music too. You know, and that's
You
what
know,
I really
a lot
like
of people
about him.
forget that, don't they? To leave some open spaces.
Sure. And to listen to the vocalist and to, especially if you play a wind instrument, I try to learn the words before I play the song.
Oh, we've talked about that a lot. I think everybody likes to do that, especially if it's a beautiful ballad or
Yeah.
some tune that does have very meaningful words. I think it helps you play the tune.
Yes.
It does me.
What I used to do, we used to play one of my favorite tunes in a sentimental mood as a duet. And I was playing a baritone saxophone, which means you have to have even more control. You know.
Goodness.
And it's a sort of amazing that you can interpret all of Duke's songs in totally different ways, but the essence of the song is still there. I mean, like, it's always present, you know. And I would really like to hear you do In a Sentimental Mood, if you wouldn't mind.
I'd love to. That's one of my favorite Duke Ellington tunes. In fact, I have him playing that on a solo record.
Oh,
which I
really?
like a lot, yeah. All right, here goes.
Okay.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that myself. I should have had you join in.
I couldn't resist playing that last note, but it was beautiful. It was wonderful.
Well, we'll do many more, I see here by this list of tunes, and I can't wait to do another one. But I'm having a really good time, a meeting of the minds and meeting of the instruments. My guest is Grover Washington Jr. with Gary Mazrapi on bass. I'm Marian McPartland, and this is Piano Jazz. You've got such a wonderful, not only the way you play, but personality and explaining things. Do you ever do things with kids, like you were talking about the kids coming, sitting up on the bandstand?
All the time, yes.
Do you actually do workshops? Or?
I do workshops, master classes, seminars, and things at all the grade levels. From I guess like from kindergarten through secondary schools.
Now, do you do this in Philadelphia or all over the country? Or?
I do it all over, because when I'm home, I usually don't have time to do it, because like I'm so busy doing like the office thing, because music is a business now.
I know, isn't it a drag? You have to be a business person, but you have to do it.
Sure. And you can't lament the fact that it takes you away from your instrument. You just have to make time for the things that you think are more important. And sometimes you have to take care of the business before you can have fun. I think that the music really, determines your attitude and your intellect and the way that you deal with other people.
That's a great philosophy. I like that. And you have to sort of impart all this stuff to kids too. And they ask these silly questions like, "What's the most important thing about being a musician?" And I say, "Don't be late for the gig."
Right. Yeah.
I guess that's the first thing that comes into my head. I'm not being personal. I'm looking at Gary, but...
And thank you very much.
He's always on time.
And one of the other things is never stop learning, because I find out when I do like a lot of master classes, and you go over like the basics again, and you stress the basics, of the tonal quality of your instrument, whatever that instrument is, whether it's your voice or an instrument or whether you're playing a piano or a woodwind or whatever, but play it like you really mean it, And since I started playing classical music first, but I always listened to jazz, but I didn't know where all the notes came from until my first real teacher, Mr. Elvin Shepard, who lives in Buffalo still, he sat me down at the piano and said, "The whole symphony orchestra is right here, and all you have to do is just learn how to get each one to work for you."
That's true. And never stop learning. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And play, I think you have to play as if it was your last day on earth or something like that.
Sure.
You do it.
Just play it like you mean it.
Speaking of which, let's play something. What shall we play?
Okay. How about I'm beginning to see the light? How about
There's another one I haven't done for an age. All right. You know, it's so wonderful to be doing all Duke Ellington tunes. There's such a variety, and each one is perfectly formed and different from the one that went earlier. Everything he does is different. I mean, the man it's mind-boggling when you think of how many beautiful melodies, and it certainly should teach a person about composition.
Yeah. If he had, like the smallest idea, like it could be like maybe 2 bars. It could be just like a single phrase, and he would make a whole tune out of it. He would just open it up, and that was the genius of the man coming out, I think. And his music has certainly like affected me. Even though folks think that I just play just contemporary stuff, I have a healthy knowledge and a healthy respect for the music that came before us, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here.
If Duke was alive today, I bet he would be thinking along contemporary lines. I bet he would come up with contemporary tunes, and I bet he would even come up with a sophisticated kind of a rap tune.
I'm sure, because music marches on. Over like the last, let's say, 20 or 30 years, like the music has really changed. By leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's been the musicians that have brought us, kicking and screaming, and sometimes like it turns out to be the technology which enables people to do more.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine years ago being able to sample something on a keyboard, like and play a keyboard and have it sound like a trumpet?
Right.
It's mind-boggling, the things that one can do now. But above it all, the mind is the thing. You can have millions of electronics, but your mind has to put the whole thing together and make it sound good.
It all comes to just like you and I are sitting here talking about the music with our acoustic instruments. I think that's that's one of the best sounds I think there is.
Let's do another Duke tune. What should we do?
How about a tune that I heard Kathleen Battle sing it, and it's called Prelude to a Kiss. And I've never played it, but I would like to play it today with you.
Goodness, this is going to be a first, and I'd love to hear what you're going to do with this, because it's such a pretty tune.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Ooh, that really gives me goosebumps. I love all those really quiet notes, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to just find the right one on the piano that isn't going to go bong.
Right. Right.
Sometimes you...
I guess one of the amazing things about that song is you have a melody that goes like in half steps, but then you have extremely wide leaps in the song too, and it doesn't feel like that you're leaping that wide because of the use of the chromatic notes. I think that's a great effect.
It is, and it's funny. He never ever sort of tailored his tunes to have a lyric. I mean, they do have lyrics, but I'm sure, I don't know what he would say, but he never ever said. I mean, the tune just was the way it was, and he didn't care if it was how many octaves it was. But that's the beauty of his music.
Plus, like I think it stretched the limitations of his band, too. You know, when they play like different things, different moods and things, and even if they're like wide leaps, even if they weren't crazy about it, they would learn to do it because they love the man and they know that the music was important enough to do it right and to do it with taste.
Well, of course, the thing that I guess we all found out about that band was that there was so little actual written music that some of them had been there so long they sort of knew what note would fit with whatever. I mean, he would write tunes with certain people in mind.
Yeah, right.
And they would know what note to play. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it, isn't it?
Especially that, with a band that big, to have that many different personalities in the band and to have them all come together and just be one big horn, for Duke to do whatever he wanted to with it.
I guess that's what you hope for with your band, and that you get that effect with having people that you know and trust and they're great musicians. And
we always strive for that. When we're traveling, like in the tour bus, from gig to gig, I always take along like some Duke Ellington or maybe a little Cabin in the Sky or something like that. Just let them know, what has transpired before. And maybe they'll give them an idea like to do something else just a little different rather than doing what everybody else is doing.
Have you ever done some Duke tune or some standard tune from years gone by on any of your records and made them fit into your style? Have you ever done like, I don't know, All the Things You Are, one of those standard tunes?
We recorded an album about, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago called Then and Now. That's on Sony Records. And we recorded Stolen Moments.
Isn't that a great tune?
Yeah.
Oliver Nelson.
And I had a chance to do a tune written by Herbie Hancock called Just Enough with Herbie and Ron Carter and Grady Tate.
Now, that's one I don't know. I thought I knew all the Herbie Hancock tunes, but that's one. Is that an early tune?
Yes.
Got to look that one up.
And I did Something Borrowed, Something Blue. That was written by Tommy Flanagan.
I know that
we
too.
played a duet on that, and that was a lot of fun too. In fact, we did it just like we're doing this now,
You know, there's millions of tunes, wonderful tunes out there. Like, I remember Natalie Cole recorded "Good Morning Heartache."
Oh yeah.
And I thought this tune would never have seen the light of day, really, if she hadn't done it. And the kids in school were asking for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like you can, somebody with her stature can record any kind of a tune and make it happen for the public.
And make it theirs.
Make it theirs.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to ask you. You must have big plans for the future. What's your next record or something in your future that you're going to do?
Well, this year I'm supposed to record 2 albums because it's been a little over 2 years since Next Exit was released, and I am currently working on a jazz album and a contemporary album at the same time.
Great.
And I'm also doing different sessions, like for different people. And
Can't wait.
Neither can I. The only thing that makes it hard is how do you decide which tunes to record and which tunes to leave out. I can think of 50 right now that I'd love to do. So maybe that'll give the record company a warning that I want to do more jazz albums.
Good. We've got to have more. All right, let's jazz up.
Let's take a train.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, this really has to be the last tune, although I can think of many more, but we'll just have to settle for this one. Take the A train.
Okay.
Take a train.
I will take a train, but I promise to come back.
Okay.
If you'll have me.
That's wonderful. Such a kick.
I've had too much fun today.
You've just heard Piano Jazz with Marian McPartland and her guest from 1994, Grover Washington Jr. Piano Jazz is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. The producer is Sherry Hutchinson. Recording engineer Andrew Milano. Mastering engineer Bill Sexton. Production coordinator Gene Pinkston. The executive producer is Tom Clark. I'm David Mitchell. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is pj@scetv.org. Support for Piano Jazz comes from the Friends of Piano Jazz, NPR member stations, and NPR. Support for this episode's original production was provided by Exxon Corporation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Lila Wallace Reader's Digest Fund. Support for digital archiving was provided by Save America's Treasures through a partnership between the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Park Service, Department of the Interior. Support for NPR comes from NPR contributors, which include the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, working with others to build a culture of health for all, on the web at rwjf.org, and the Walton Family Foundation, working to prepare all students for a lifetime of opportunity by ensuring access to high-quality K-12 choices. More information is available at waltonk12.org. This is NPR.